uh, never heard of. When we talk about Earth and you talk about the Anunnaki, one of the first things people think about is the mining of gold. You talked about how the righteous people who walk the earth, a byproduct of having a righteous spirit, produces gold on the earth.
Yeah.
And a byproduct of unrighteous spirit produces oil. Could you now that's some weird shit. Could you elaborate on that? For a lot of us, that's weird.
But we are accumulated stardust.
Yeah.
Right? When we walk on the earth as a righteous soul, the earth being naturally creates the gold. It's a heart chakra resonance that causes the reflection of the sun penetrating the organism, reaching the core of the earth, and it get trapped on the return in the veins of the earth as veins of gold. Right? The unrighteous, because they need time and temperature to develop, start out as the producing oil in the earth, because this is how the earth filters the dirt they do. So they turn it into capital. The oil need time, temperature, and pressure to become a piece of coal. And from a piece of coal, it moves as a dynamic diamond, as the most purified form of carbon, which is transparent. But it gives off the appearance of colors by the pigmentations of light that's striking. So it's a prism of light. And so those who come in, low vibrational beings, as they evolve, produces the oil as a side effect of their presence, striking the core of the earth, getting trapped in veins that they call oil veins. Right? But it's not just those two. It's also all of the platinum group metals are all of the masters on the planet, or the master family bloodlines. These is what they call key lines or key bloodlines. And this is why your ley lines are also called key lines on the earth. It's all correspondences. Like in hermetics.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything got a side effect.
Yeah.
But we don't know what the side effect is to everything. The hard part for us on Earth was to figure out why we had gold and other places didn't. Because our sun, in interaction with mainly the women, because at one time it wasn't no men, for the gold to accumulate, it started with them. And they golden heart. This is where you get your sun worship from. The presence of the stardust that forms the being in the purified heart produces the gold on the energy return to the sun. Right? So it's like a reflection of light hit the core of the earth, go through you on the way, take your essence with it. Because you righteous, when it come back out, you got platinum, you got gold, you got iridium, you got copper, right? And the weakest of them all is the iron, right? But that's the first phase of the higher development. And you notice that the symbol for iron is Fe, prefix for female. When they talk about Iron Man, Fe man, female, feminine man, right? Talking about creative potentialities. Do your right brain function or just your left brain? We supposed to be ambidextrous. What happened? Why we not? Somebody did something to maim us. They wounded our right hemisphere. So the brain damage make the other side become more dominant. Now you have to work through the brain damage in order to get back to the function of the ambidextrous status of the brain functioning in harmony.
Right.
And you got to live it out in your life in order to find all of the properties to rebuild the right hemisphere, which is the hemisphere of wisdom, artistic creation, and spirituality. Left hemisphere is responsible for intellect, logic, and reason. So when you put them together, they're supposed to work together in synthesis. But they telling us the way that we treat our women shows whether we looking for the synthesis or the antithesis, the separation, the division. They feed us the seeds of division. I be listening to all these people trying to tell people about relationships like we ain't never had relationships before. I'm like, damn, what about all them people that stayed together 40 years and there wasn't no such thing as a marriage counselor?
Right, right.
They had no such thing. What about before that when we would have relationships till we 120 and we've been together 97 years?
Yeah.
We forget about all that stuff. Now we think it's so hard to have a relationship. Yeah, because everybody's selfish, self-centered, and greedy, entitled, and don't want to do no self-work, but they want everybody else to work on themselves. That's not going to never work. It's going to always blow up in your face. Right? And the denial is the reality that everybody don't have to think the same. Everybody don't supposed to see everything the same, because if they did, then there would be no richness to life. We all just be like logs floating down the river.
Yeah, exactly. You said when I was talking to you, you told me the 7 sisters produced the metals. Could you elaborate on who's the 7 sisters? The
7 sisters is the Pleiades. Those are they also produce crystals. Right.
Palladians? You mean the Palladians? That's what you're talking about? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but all of those things is okay. So everything that we use on Earth for spiritual practice is we ordered it out of a catalog, for lack of a better way to put it. We built this shit off the Sims.
Damn.
The Voynich manuscript is an ancient catalog that we used to order from another star system some stuff we needed to make Earth beautiful.
So you're like, let me get some marijuana. Let me get some of this. Like, that's how, like that?
Well, that was brought, THC, cannabis was brought from the Canis star system.
Let me say that, yeah.
Right. And that's what they needed. Just like the mushrooms was brought by the Teros, the ones that they said they got the fat gene. Yeah, those with the overalls, the old farmer boys, they brought us the mushroom. The mushroom has since got, oh man, you asked me about that.
Oh yeah, I asked you earlier. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna talk to you about that. Yeah.
So the name we named the mushroom psilocybin under the Greek genus of species, and the spirit of the mushroom said it was his favorite name when I asked him why. He said because it sounded like silly ass Cyrus, and he just bust out laughing so hard, man. But he gave me some information, and I just knew I was, well, you hallucinating. It can't be true, right? So I come out of the trip and checked out everything he said, and everything he said checked out. A1 true. Yeah. Fucked me up. Wow. Brother Rich, this was this year.
This year?
This was about 3-4 months ago.
Yeah.
He came in with a light show.
Yeah.
It was crazy. He came in with a light show. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? He said, I'm psilocybin. I get extra serious when I be dealing with something that's not normal to me. So I'm like, who the fuck?
Oh, wow. I am psilocybin. Wow. Oh, man.
He went to showing me where the life cycle of the mushroom. I'm looking at snotty cow noses, snotty moose noses, snotty buffalo noses. They all in the fields sucking in spores, sneezing them back out, and then dropping dung on them.
Yeah.
And then the mushrooms spring out the dung. So he's showing me the life cycle. But the one that threw me off, he told me to focus on the elk. Right? He said elk love mushrooms. Right? And so we go on and on and on. Then he tell me that for psychic healing, the proboscis monkeys still use mushrooms for psychic healing. Right? So I'm getting all this in the trip. He didn't tell me, he say, I got mushrooms everywhere. Wherever you need to know something, I got mushrooms there. He went to showing me mushrooms in caves. He showed me mushrooms on mountains, mushrooms in the fields, mushrooms on trees. He's just showing me different places where mushrooms at, right? But then he took me back to the cave, right? So he said, now this is the whatever species of mushroom he told me it was, and he said they got something called bioluminescence. It allows them to illuminate caves. So I come out of the trip and somebody sent me a reel talking about animals that get high. And it's landed on the elk love the mushroom, a specific strain of mushroom. Blew me back. Boom. So I'm like, man, so that made me go look up the proboscis monkey. And then they say the proboscis monkey has an obsession with the mushroom. And I'm like, God damn. I said, okay, I'm tripping. So I go on here about 2-3 hours later, I come back, I go check my messages. Somebody sent me bioluminescent mushroom illuminates cave article. I'm over here tripping off my trip.
Basically. tripping off your trip.
I was like, wow, that was, I'm like, I'm not even under the mushroom experience now. The aftermath is more dynamic than the actual trip itself.
That was a hella interesting story right there, right? Wow. Wow. So something else we was talking about, Rob, when we was talking about the different cycles and the different thing, because we were just basically talking about how this shit is just a video game. And
it's a proverb that said there's nothing new under the sun. If it's a guy named Michael Cremo, he wrote a book called Forbidden Archaeology. Got history that is so far back that it doesn't make sense for it to exist with our current paradigm. Right? But he's going through the different cycles, what he called the Great Kali Yuga and the Lesser Kali Yugas. It's cycles within cycles. Right? When you go back to Vedic history doesn't read the same as Western history. You get millions of years of history through the Hindu schools that you don't get in modern paradigm education. Right? Because the Hindu culture is the oldest culture that still practiced the same way no matter who settled their land. It's the oldest uninterrupted culture on the planet. Everybody else been interrupted.
The Hindu culture.
Yeah. What we call modern day India. Right. And they had different names for it. All of these names that we use in as exonyms, they was given to us by invaders. Right. All of the names that we used to use, they changed the spelling or pronunciation. For the tribes that didn't write, they changed the pronunciation of it.
Right.
And when they do that, they write a history, and we don't even know they're talking about us in our face behind our back. All the time they talking about us, calling us Negro, but they telling us how they slaughtered us off and purged us from the land that we own while we sitting there getting the lesson from the liar that's telling the story. Right? Because the victor gonna tell the story that's gonna make the ones conquered remain conquered as long as possible. They're not gonna never tell you the story that's gonna liberate you, and knowledge itself is liberation.
Right.
The highest form of liberation is to liberate the self from other people's paradigms so that you can see the perspective from your own viewpoint. And that's the hardest thing to teach in the current paradigm, because the current paradigm says you automatically wrong, the system automatically right, and we got the police to beat you in the head and shoot you in the ass to prove it. We wear the uniforms and we write the paper. We got to be the right people.
Right.
So we assume because they uniformed and they got all of these stacks of papers, then they look important. They must be important motherfuckers. All the time, they the frauds. And the really important one is that old man in the hood sitting there drinking his wine, watching the world go by because he ain't participating in these games. Because it don't make sense to him. Right? It's a song by Incognito called 100 and Rising. And the girl singing, she said, old man sitting in the shade, no longer wanting to participate in this charade. You know, he's sitting there drinking his lemonade, and it's 100 and rising. You're watching the temperature of the summer day go up, but she also watching the temperature of the people go up, spiritually speaking. Body temperature might not go up, but eventually you're going to get fed up with certain stuff. It just takes the strongest people longer to get fed up enough to do the right thing about it.
Facts.
Yep. Oppression is atmospheric. That means that you only gonna stay as oppressed as you're willing to accept. Then you're gonna break free because you're done with that crap.
You also talked about because we talk a lot about us in a former cycle being giants, and there's so much evidence that we used to be giants. We was talking about how we chose this particular avatar, smaller one, to populate more. So
this is a chapter of misery, the epoch or the age of warfare. When you were giants, the warfare was fought mano a mano. When you modern size humans, you fight your wars with armies. Right. So it's not reliant on one person happen to be the strongest. If he can position the most soldiers in the best spots, he can win the war without striking a blow. So we didn't been through everything. If you can think of it, we did it already. Because it's already in your memory bank. Right. Now you can create something with the agency of art that's an abstract of something we're going to create in the future. Because you can see the future and the past at the same time when you're not in the body.
Right. We just talked about that.
Right. Only hindsight is 20/20 and the future is murky. So when you write it in the abstract, when you pass the phenomenon, you'll recognize it in symbolism. It's like driving down the street real fast and everything is a blur. But if you periodically take a picture, you say, I didn't even know I missed that. That's what the art is.
Deep.
So now you look back on the art and then you can see the spiritism in the art form that allow you to read the pulse of the people when they put it on the drum. You know, Hadith say Muhammad told his subjects to bring him the duffs. That's the drums. You got drums in Islam. You got drums in tribal culture of Africa. Drums in the tribal cultures of the Americas. Drums in the tribal cultures of Asia, in the plains of Asia. The Mongolian empires. You got drums in Europe. You got drums in Australia, drums on the islands, the Tongans and the Samoans, they all beating on the drum. Tribal stories relay a message on the drum. The echo can be picked up in the future and written as a new song. It's time travel without going there physically.
Right.
You send the message in the future on the beat. Next time the beat come up, the message come out. You thought that beat ain't never been heard before. You just ain't hear it in this lifetime. But whoever put the message on the track is the one who can see the message that was being delivered when it was made the first time. The one who can hear the track, that's the producer that make the beat. he can hear the echo of the past. Right? It's a book called Echoes of the Old Dark Land. Right? Talking about going back to the melanin center. Right? But we always refer to it in modern times as going back to Africa. It's not Africa, it's Ethiopia or Ether Utopia. The spirit science of the nine ether liberates us from all lesser conscious gas forces. Automatically, when we understand how it works and what it does, we free. Garvey brought it to the mainland through the Rasta house. Right? The Rastas knew what it was, so they perpetuated and tied it back to Ethiopia through Haile Selassie. Ethiopia is tied to India because India used to be Eastern Ethiopia. Right? And the people in the Ethiopia in Africa today is called the Afar. And we used to call people from the far Eastern Ethiopia the Afar Inca. Right? They was the people at a distance. Inca meant people. And we used to refer to ourselves as the Amur Inca. Not to be confused with Moor, because Moor is a catch term and is modern. Right? So the Amur Inca meant the people who was under the rule of the Amaru Empire. Right? And the deity that was responsible for the Amaru Empire, which is a priesthood on the leopard clan, and the stealth priests is Black Panthers. And we call him Tupac Amaru. Right? So we see him today and we call him Tupac Shakur. Right? And then when we see DMX, that's Chief Zolo. When we see 50 Cent, that's Curtis Jackson. He's an ancient conjure man from New Orleans.
Yeah.
One of the coldest.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you see 50 Cent, he come with something called the Big 50 flip. The Big 50 flip is giving the conjure key off of the fatherland that was hidden in the father house over to the motherland by giving it to Big 50. Big 50 in turn rallied the troops, the March of the Mayors, to flip 50 mayors. And they all come with a regiment. So in the war games, by positioning the divine feminine across the land and tying them to the capitals, right, it gave me 50 sisters to flip off of 50 niggas. And 50 Cent being Big 50.
Wow.
Guerrilla unit off a guerrilla clan.
Damn.
To a Black guerrilla family.
Yeah.
To a GD that's a pit bull.
Wow. You be making them connections, man.
It's in the psyche of the subconscious. It's all there.
Quick announcement to everybody. Me and Rod Hayes is doing a Patreon video probably next Tuesday. Sometime next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. There's some things I want to discuss that obviously y'all know what's going on over there. That's all over the news that we definitely can't talk about. And it's going to be raw and uncut. It's going to be uncensored, raw and uncut. So all the Patreons, get ready for that next week. And if you are not a Patreon, I advise you to sign up because this is going to be a real raw and uncut video touching on things that is very pertinent with what's going on in the news right now. There's a big propaganda campaign going on the news right. Red and Blue just got their channel taken down. I don't know if I think it was because they was talking about that. You know, they striking channels for talking about that right now. So I ain't even gonna talk about that. But everybody know what I'm talking about. But Rod will be on Patreon next week. So just stay tuned for that. We're gonna be touching on that. So Rod, so in terms of you talked about the North, you mentioned the North Star earlier. They say that the North Star Polaris is no longer the North Star anymore. What does that mean for this paradigm and the paradigm that we're entering, that we don't have the same North Star that we had anymore, Rod?
So that would mean that the shift is taking place already. We just seeing it. So we'll know about it from the stellar event before we see it play out in the physical reality.
Okay.
When you get the report that the stellar event has altered, it's telling you that there's an incoming alteration in what's going on the earth with the human people reenacting the movement of the stars. Right? So some of us are trailblazers, we comets, we burn through the land. You know, then some of us, we just lesser stars that follow the beaten path. Right? Until we build up enough momentum in our own orbit to become supernova.
Indeed.
Cycles of life.
Cycles of life, huh? I want to get to a couple of questions. I got a double header tonight, y'all. I got KT coming on at 9. Me and Rod will probably be on here for about another 20 minutes. Then I'm gonna take a break, and KT is gonna come on at 9. So I want to take some questions from y'all. I don't want to leave here without getting some questions from y'all. Give me some questions. I see a couple of super chat questions. Somebody wants to know, Rod Hayes, what is the effect of the solar eclipses?
The effect will be different for different people. Right? When you understand eclipsing energies, is one energy overtaking another energy. Right? And the symbolism is timed to the divine feminine reclaiming their power on earth from the less than divine masculine usurpers. The timing is synchronized, so it can mean a lot of stuff depending on your spiritual rank.
Okay.
The lesser your rank, the less it means. Then some people, it ain't gonna mean shit. They just NPCs anyway. Right? But then some people, it's gonna change the world for them. Their whole paradigm just shifts. Right? Old things that didn't serve them can fall off, and future things that's going to be in their greatest good come online. It just depends on where you at in your development.
Somebody said, coming straight from a Maori elder, Hindu is not the only uninterrupted culture. Maori culture is also uninterrupted.
No, the Europeans interrupted it when they interrupted this one over here. The Europeans have it now. They still hold on to the aspects of their culture. Don't get me wrong, but the majority of them church people. That's interrupted like a motherfucker. They Catholic Christians, right? Then the ones who don't want to participate, their culture is not interrupted because they don't even live with the rest of the ones that has been usurped, have been deviated, told their culture was some kind of backward field jargon, some bullshit, and then this Christian shit is what's right. But it's a sizable portions of people there that's been Christianized and it's been dominating the society. When you go to India, they doing the same thing in 2023 that they was doing in 700 BC. The only difference is they got somebody that they call the head of state following the pattern of Europe, but all of the rest of their spiritual practices and all that stuff, they ain't never stopped doing that shit. And they still got the record of it.
Right.
But that's the most critical part to keeping it intact. Right? The Maori culture is old, but it's not as old as the Hindu culture. The Hindu culture wasn't always called Hindu. The Ayurvedic is an even older term for it. Right? But they got the text that's the foundational information for the Maori culture in their temples. All of these cultures, as elders was setting up cultures and living under their own vine and fig tree. And other people came later on and said, no, the way you living ain't how we think you should live. So you should change your lifestyle how I think you should live it. And most of us put up a hell of a fight, but they already knew when they come to bring over overwhelming force until they ran into that Gullah War that ended up becoming the Conjure War.
All right, let's get to the next question. Somebody wants to know, how can we look more into our totem animal?
Look, almost all your spirit information, you already know. You already know what your totem animal is. Research and investigate as much as you can about it. And the more you study it, the more you can tune in to the frequency. Sometimes they just deliver you information in dreams in an abstract form because of how you process. And sometimes you can be so in tune with them that you can use their higher senses. When we talk about seeing with the eagle's eye, that's because that's his highest sense. You know, you smell like a bloodhound. No, so all of these things with higher senses of an animal that we can utilize as a human.
Let's get to another question, Rod. Melissa wants to know, ask Rod to share who amongst the Anunnaki is responsible for destroying Apsu and Mother Tiamat.
When that happened, that was an accident. It was a miscalculation in the navigation system. Since then, that's been corrected. But it was that none of their names are known on Earth because they never came to Earth. But they were the ones that was the pilots responsible for navigating through this cluttered solar system. Right? They got more clutter that comes with them that make it more difficult to navigate without causing, meteor showers on every planet. Well, now they have something like galactic GPS, so to speak, where they can monitor where the Earth is, and they can run simulations. They keep running simulations until they get the orbit that they desire that causes the least amount of destruction. That was a strategy given to the Anunnaki by Tahuti. Right, because they had the technology, but they had never thought to use it to plot their own course and steer would cause the least amount of damage. They didn't know that they could make that kind of, well, they knew they had the technology, but they just didn't ever make it. So now they made it and it's working, because you would have been seeing the Nibiru in the sky because it's big as hell. They just seen it already in different parts of the planet. But when it come all the way around, the orbit has been changed. It's not going to even be a third of the size it used to be in the sky. So you're going to see it. When you see it, it's going to be big as hell. And that's not even a third of the size that it used to be when you see it.
Wow.
Right? Because they changed the orbit. The orbit had to be adjusted because of especially the debris tail in Nibiru. We still getting iron oxide, but it's coming in patches. Before, it was coming in the whole storm, had a whole planet red. Now it's coming in patches. That's a good sign. That means they just out of the reach where the tailwind is not smothering us, so to speak. And it's minimizing the potential for the so-called doomsday. Because every time they used to come, the crust used to flip. But this time, only the core flipped. That means that they adjusted it just out of the reach of the planet enough where it won't cause the surface to flip, but it will cause the inner pole to flip.
Mm-hmm.
So before it flipped, it got to stop. That happened back in January. And when it picked back up and started rotating again, it's going to go the opposite direction. They reported that 6 days later. That's the reversal of the poles without the crust flipping this time.
Mm.
It's all part of the redemption process. The more we do what we're supposed to do, the more we get to divert all of the catastrophes. Oh, they call it near misses. Bad shit gonna happen, but worst case scenarios never occur.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So bad shit gonna happen, but worst case scenarios never occur. Because there's always a minimizing ritual you could play out to reduce the activity of the whole overall catastrophic event. Right. They could have did 9/11 to minimize nuclear holocaust. So it's been a ritual to lessen the destruction that causes a ripple in the people's emotions, sufficient enough to know that a catastrophic event took place. Now they don't have to do nuclear holocaust. But it depends on who gets the position to use it, the energy, the egregore, the accumulated thought forms of the most people. This is why you want them to believe in themselves. Right? Because everything starts self-correcting for everybody. The more people believe in themselves, the less that the egregore is centralized in the hands of corrupted people. Right? So imagine that the universal mind is a blimp floating over all of the people. And everybody think that the pilot of the blimp is the best person for the job, and he the absolute worst because he can't even fly a blimp.
Yeah.
But we all focusing our energy to him, and he about to crash. And then all we have to do is realize he about to crash, disengage, and then we take control of the blimp. As a collective, we control it now. It's the same with the universal mind. We can control it if we get enough of us to believe in ourselves, Christ consciousness, collective consciousness. Raising our consciousness collectively at the same time to the position of I believe in me, because Big Mama said I was going to be everything I could be. And I believe what Big Mama said over what these people telling me. Disengage. When you disengage, they machine malfunction. AI starts to cough. And it's a wrap.
What's your opinion on AI, Rod? I don't know if I asked you that before. What's your thoughts on AI and technology?
It's useful. Just don't misuse it.
Indeed.
I don't have a problem with nothing humans do, nothing the so-called guys do. Just don't misuse nothing, and everything it works where it's supposed to. You're supposed to develop technology. You're supposed to develop new ways of creating new life. Creating new life experiences in best life scenarios, no matter what's going on around you. You know, so AI in and of itself, it's just AI for but 4-bit quantum encryption. It's still not God mind.
Right.
In the 3D, the God mind is a 19-bit quantum encryption. That guy's no match.
Well, what's a 19-bit quantum encryption?
That's the speed in which data can be processed across that many different dimensions, 19 dimensions of information. The AI got a limiter. The limiter is it can't go past 4th dimensional mind matrix. Once the human mind get the 5th dimensional spirit soul matrix, AI can no longer control it. You outgrow AI. But as long as you stay within the frequency range of the AI, it can dominate and control. Right. So everything within 4th dimensional mind matrix down AI can some kind of way influence or manipulate. But it can only do according to its program. It can't break from its program because it's only artificially derived intelligence simulating the intelligence of the God man. But it can't get past man matrix because it was created in the man. It wasn't created in the spirit soul matrix. So as soon as the frequency of the being go to spirit soul matrix, it begins to see above.
Take your time, brother. Take your time.
Get to see above artificial intelligence. Sylvia Brown wrote Matrix and Terminator. Her ability to see that.
Who you talking about, Sophia Stewart?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sophia Stewart. I say Sylvia Brown. That's the psychic lady.
That's psychic. Yeah.
Martell Williams gonna buy me upside the head with a sock. Anyway, Sophia Stewart, she's easily able to hit spirit soul matrix at an early age because she wrote that in college. So she was tuned in from then. Right? What she see in the mind matrix is she can, it's just like being on the outside looking at all that stuff, the people plugged into the computer and all that. You can see it. That's that clear. But when you in it, it's like Neo not seeing the lady in the red dress. Because you in it now.
Let me get to a couple more questions before we get out of here. Kenneth Davis Rod wants to know, Brother Rod, how should we operate in this world if we don't want to participate in the charade? I'm just over 30 and I'm over the illusion. What does breaking free look like?
It's going to look different person by person because you got to rely on what's written in your spirit, in your soul, to guide you to the path of least resistance to your liberation. That's the hard part because now we got to believe in ourselves to the point where we don't have to follow the beaten path. We can stretch out on our own. Right? So liberation look different for different people. Some people, a $20 raise is liberation. Then some people, liberation is being able to retire with a certain amount of money and fish all day. Some people is hunting out on the plains. Other people is being able to go skiing anytime they want to. It don't look the same for everybody. You got to know what fulfills you in your heart in order to know what your own freedom and liberation is going to look like. Once you see it from your heart space and from your mind space, it converges in your real space. So it's look different for different people.
Excellent. Let me see. Starseed Weed Puller wants to know, what's going on with the Alpha Dracos? Is this our creators equals dragons?
The Dracos is on the Galactic Council. It's one of the oversight beings to the conflict between the Anunnakis and the humans. Also, the Pleiadians are watchers, the Arcturians are watchers, Zeta Reticuli, and then you have the scientists that's checking the genetics to see if the plan that was written by Enki is working and making sure that everybody have an equal right to ascension based on the assimilation of one drop of blood. Right? So when you're looking at these different beings, you have some Draco beings that's malevolent that came to subjugate us. But the higher evolved Draco beings that sits on the Galactic Council is responsible that if they lose the war, they got to correct them.
Mm.
They responsible to clean that shit up.
Mm-hmm.
So now if they lose because they challenged the wrong people, they have to go back to their system, to their star system, to be reprimanded by the ones who need to re-educate them on how they deal with other species. The Earth situation is unique because nobody ever fought back like this.
Mm.
This is like World War II dogfight in the air.
Wow.
You know, and it took a lot of resources from multiple parts of reality, but this is the way that it's set up. This is the script for the simulation. It's the backstory, right? And the backstory is read best by what you see now. It's always everything you see around you, you're supposed to see it right now, but what led up to it? Reverse engineer that shit. Remember when
Billy was on it. Yeah,
and then I'd say, well, because when you reverse engineer it, if there's an error, it'll show itself.
Right, right.
All right, that's why everybody talking about my religion, the only true religion. Bullshit. Bullshit. Nobody's religion is a true religion because religion is the whole concept is a military strategy of subjugation. So ain't no such thing as a true religion unless you understand that your subjugation is your religion. Then you true to your religion, and now you following a true religion. But if you don't know you subjugated and you believe in something because somebody told you it's what it was, you haven't developed enough